Friends, hello. I'm Ihor Havryshchak, and you're watching Channel 24 on YouTube. We're pleased to welcome our guest Serguei Jirnov, a former KGB and Russian foreign intelligence officer. Sergei, congratulations. Thank you, Igor, and greetings to all our viewers. Don't forget to subscribe to Sergei's channel, link in the description, like, comment, ask questions, and share this interview to help us grow on YouTube. Sergei, let's start. Since Donald Trump became president, important dates have been driving the news: inauguration, Oval Office meetings, and more. Recently, all eyes were on May 9th, and now the focus is on May 15th in Istanbul. We know Vladimir Zelenskyy will be there, and according to Keith Kellogg and possibly Witkoff, they might attend too. There's speculation that if Putin comes, Trump will be there as well. Do you think it makes sense for Putin to attend? What's your overall take on these developments ahead of the Istanbul meeting? Of course, now this story is absolutely detective story. Everyone is wondering what is going on. So roughly speaking, Putin can't go there, and he can't not go either. He's trapped himself. You may have seen that night press conference he suddenly organized. What kind of press conference is that? The journalist didn't ask a single question. He just read out a pre-prepared text. And according to rumors, he wrote it himself by hand. No one even helped him. In general, this whole situation is strange. Why at night? Why secretly, under a blanket? Peskov knew nothing. Nobody knew anything. Poor journalists were made to wait until late at night. By the way, our correspondent in Moscow was also sitting there. Pity him, poor guy. They waited until 1, 2 in the morning. And then he came out, read out this long story, and at the end he suddenly said, "We'll have negotiations in Istanbul." This was clearly done to embarrass Ukraine and Zelensky. He regularly mentions the Istanbul agreements of March 2022 as some kind of missed chance. And here it is. And here in Istanbul. I mean, they'd already initialed everything, signed everything. It was just Johnson who came and disrupted everything. But in other words, they say, Ukraine agreed to everything, gave everything up, and they already have Ukrainian signatures under the documents and so on. And when he now says, "Come to Istanbul, let's start where we left off in March 2022, he was sure that Ukraine would naturally respond. What Istanbul agreements? The steam train left a long time ago, because back then your troops stood near Kiev, near Chernigov, near Sumy, near Kherson, near Mykolaiv, near Kharkov, everywhere. And now everything has changed dramatically. Then you had, roughly speaking, about 30% of Ukrainian territory, and now you have less than 20. And in general, Ukraine has been fighting like steel for 3.5 years. And soon you'll have under 1 million dead and wounded, and so on. He was waiting for Zelensky in Ukraine to say no, in no case. We will not go to Istanbul. We want, please, another place, but not Istanbul, and not a return to those negotiations. And then Trump shows up with his, "Maybe we should agree, right?" Although, to be honest, I read his post on his own Twitter, which he calls social. He has his own media network. At first glance, it might seem rather harsh towards Ukraine. They say that it is necessary to agree immediately, and in big letters, in caps lock, Ukraine must agree immediately. But everyone forgot to read to the end, because the next thing Trump did was essentially lash out at Putin. Putin, meanwhile, got caught up in celebrating his May 9th, a holiday that, if Trump is to be believed, was actually won by the United States of America. That's what he wrote, almost verbatim, except, the most obnoxious word that was only implied. So in fact, Trump went hard on Putin. He really didn't like the fact that Xi Jinping was standing next to him at this parade, which was not healthy but wounded, i.e., shitty Russia. This he, Trump, really didn't like. And the very fact that he mentioned it in his message already says a lot. And then Zelenskyy came out, literally 45 minutes after Trump's publication, and in his social network said, "Why, no problem. On the 15th I'll be there. Putin, drive up. You want direct negotiations? No problem. I'll go straight to Istanbul, whatever you say, kid. And as you can see for yourself, no one in Moscow was ready for that. And they were like, how come you're coming? Like, what a surprise. And then Putin disappeared. He's gone. He's sitting in a bunker, locked from the inside. They ask Peskov, well, what does Putin say? And he says, I don't know, Putin decides. In other words, he's really locked himself in. No communication. He doesn't answer knocks, only takes his food through the window, just like in prison. When he takes it, he's quiet, no contact with the outside world. He gets like this. It's like Stalin after Hitler's attack. Remember, it's written in history that he went into hiding for 3 weeks. And when members of the Politburo came to his daksha, like, listen, Sanya, come out, we have to fight the Germans somehow, he thought they were coming to arrest him and shoot him for the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, for ignoring all the warnings, and so on. And here is the final act. Yesterday, or when, I'm already confused, I think it was yesterday, Trump said, listen, if Zelenskyy will be there, Putin will be in Istanbul, my friend Erdogan will be there, a warm company, I'll come too. We'll eat kebabs, saparavi, wine, we'll have a good time.
Слушай, а если Зеленский будет, Путин будет в Стамбуле, там еще мой друг Эрдоган, теплая компания, я тоже к вам подтянусь, шашлычков поедим, там эти самые сапирави, там какое-нибудь венцо.
Erdogan can't. He's a Muslim. But we are all normal. We can overturn this case. And that's it. Putin is caught in a trap. Because he can't not go. Trump has already said that he will come himself. But he can't go either. First, Putin simply doesn't want to go. And second, if he does go, it's not certain that his plane will make it to Istanbul. One president, the Azerbaijani president, recently flew his plane over the Caucasus, and everyone remembers how it ended. There's no answer either. And frankly speaking, he is now sitting in complete bewilderment. I'll tell you what can happen. The first option is that Putin will simply die. He'll just die. And someone will come out, let's say Peskov, and say Putin has died. Valery Dmitrievich Solovey, by the way, said it right. He died 2 years ago. He's lying in the refrigerator. Here now, we'll show you the body. And from the refrigerator, as you understand, you can't fly to Istanbul. That's the first option. And the second, they can organize Crocus too, right tomorrow. They could organize a terrorist attack, say, in the Bolshoi Theater or somewhere else, and say, we have a tragedy, I can't leave Moscow, the country is in shock.
И скажут, вот видите, ну там, я не знаю, там большой театр устроят или там еще чего-нибудь, и скажут там, вот у нас такая трагедия в Москве, уехать не могу, потому что трагедия...
He needs the same excuse Modi had for skipping May 9th. Modi was at war with Pakistan, but Putin doesn't want to start another war. He'll need a terrorist attack in Moscow right before or on the day of the trip. Then he can say, sorry, circumstances changed, I was ready to go, the plane was fueled, everything prepared, but I can't leave. He'll send someone else instead, maybe Mishustin or Matvienko, to represent him.
Очень хотел приехать, вот видите, уже самолет уже на парах стоял, уже прям заправили его, даже там загрузили все, водку, там икру, все приготовили, шашлыки, вот, но уехать не могу. Присылаю вам и кого-нибудь нам пошлет вместо себя. Там, я не знаю, там, вице-премьера какого-нибудь, или, я не знаю, Мишустина может послать, скажет, ну вот премьер все-таки, это, так сказать, не хухры-мукры, или Матвиенко какую-нибудь там посадит.
Here, I think he has only one last move left. Or they will say that Putin has had a heart attack and is lying in Botkin Hospital or somewhere else, so he can't come. The doctor wrote him a certificate saying that he is sick and cannot go to school for 3 days because he is practically dying. The situation for Putin, of course, is very unpleasant. But, as you can see, when I say this, I'm not trying to pity you or to make our viewers feel sorry for you. On the contrary, we are even pleased that things are so bad for him. You know, remember that movie, The Place to Meet You Can't Change, about the killer in the yard? There was a Latvian woman who says, I met this traitor and told him something like this. I knew it would be unpleasant for him, and I wanted him to be unpleasant. There. So we want Putin to be unpleasant.
Там такая латышка говорит, я вот встретила этого предателя, И я ему сказала что-то такое. Я знала, что ему будет неприятно, а мне хотелось, чтобы ему было неприятно. Вот, соответственно, нам хочется, чтобы Путину было неприятно.
Дякую, що з нами. Дякую, що є. Не підведемо.
Sergei, thank you very much. But I would like to ask you, I think it's probably not so important now how Putin will explain why he won't come to Istanbul, but how Trump will react. After all, Keith Kellogg, the special counsel, says there will be no meeting without Putin, and Russia will be hit with massive sanctions. But first of all, what Keith Kellogg says doesn't always match Trump's position. For example, Kellogg condemned the so-called pseudo-ceasefire on May 9th and insisted on a 30-day ceasefire, whereas Trump came out and said, let's meet immediately, and forgot about the 30-day ultimatums. Here's wondering what Trump's response will be, because so far we've only heard statements about sanctions and hints of strikes, but nothing has actually happened, even though Putin has already rejected offers from the US and Trump at least twice. Yes, indeed, nothing can be guaranteed here. Let's not make any predictions at all, because let's just say that we have only 48 hours to wait. Everything will become clear after that time. The main thing is that President Zelenskyy said, I will definitely be there. But I am first going to Ankara to meet with Erdogan. I will be in Ankara, and these figures will be in Istanbul. No problem. Who will Putin send there? Ushakov, Lavrov? Okay, we'll send them Yermak, Sabiga, or someone else in return. No problem. But I'm going to Istanbul. If Putin is there, Erdogan and I will come too. No problem. Everything is close by. If Putin wants to visit us in Ankara, no problem. We will meet. If Trump comes to Ankara, we will also solve everything. We will go where we need to go. No problem. So why should we guess and solve this problem for Putin? Let him suffer these 48 hours and think how he has driven himself to the ground. K, who pulled him by the tongue with this night statement. All Westerners, even those who are quite close to Putin and with whom I meet regularly in the television studio, say that Putin has certainly made a mistake.
С которыми я встречаюсь время от времени, даже регулярно в телевизионной студии, они даже говорят, что вот Путин на самом деле сделал, конечно, ошибку.
Feels like he really made a mistake because Trump was playing to his strengths and did everything that could be done. Even warned Putin about it. Remember his Twitter post when he said, Volodya, that was out of place and out of time. Why? Let's stop already. Stop fooling around. The referee, in fact, plays on the side of one team, and everyone understands it. But the captain of this team doesn't realize that the judge is playing for him and keeps saying, no, I want to be the ruler of Moscow and have Trump on my parcels. A classic. Pushkin, The Tale of the Fisherman and the Fish. How does the tale end for the old woman? She's left with a broken trough. And actually, everyone noticed that the rhetoric changed about 3 weeks ago, because Trump realized that Putin was just divorcing him. Trump, of course, is not a Nobel Prize winner, I mean in scientific matters, although he probably wants the Nobel Peace Prize very badly.
Потому что Трамп, конечно, не семи пядей во лбу. Он не Нобелевский лауреат, я имею в виду, по каким-то научным этим самым делам. Хотя ему очень Нобель хочется получить за мир, да?
He's not stupid, of course. As far as negotiating is concerned, Trump is 100 times better at it than Putin. He has bankrupted his companies so many times, 6 times. Yet he kept his millions. He ruined everyone. And he still has Mar-a-Lago, Trump Tower, and the whole family in a golden environment. He has love with the Saudis, with the Emirates, with Qatar, with Putin, with everyone. So he's unrivaled at divvying up negotiations. And he realized that Putin was divorcing him, and he was fed up with it. I don't know if this was officially conveyed to Trump, but I really hope that someone from Ukrainian intelligence and the foreign ministry made some kind of record, like how Trump was laughed at the Ruai Congress right on stage when Putin was told, you need to call Trump. And he replied, what Trump? let's just talk among ourselves, and made Putin wait an hour for his call. There came a point when Trump got fed up with it all.
Путину сказали, вам там идти надо звонить, разговаривать с Трампом, он говорит, какой Трамп, да бросьте вы, поговорим еще. И заставил его ждать час своего звонка. Вот. И Трамп, наступил момент, когда Трампу надоело.
That's the first thing. And then there was still, I think, even a kind of otherworldly, enigmatic story in those 15-minute talks in St. Peter's Basilica at the funeral of Pope Francis. Because it's the Pope's funeral, the whole world is there. Putin, by the way, was not invited. He sent some aunt, but it doesn't matter. Everyone else came. This place has been prayed in for almost 2,000 years, or a little less. And they put chairs right there for them. Have you seen this picture? The power of the photos is that they're sitting across from each other. Trump must have liked that picture a lot. It's not so much the conversation that matters. It's the picture itself that will remain in history. No one knows what they talked about, so they can say anything afterward. There are no witnesses, and if one of them dies, the other can tell anything. I hope it won't be Zelenskyy. I mean, he will die and someone else will tell the story.
Свидетелей нету, особенно если один из них умрет, то, естественно, второй будет рассказывать потом, что все что угодно, да? Вот, я надеюсь, что это будет не Зеленский, я имею в виду умрет, а рассказывать будет.
Next, there's a very beautiful photograph. Trump liked it, and as they flew from Milan on the plane, and apparently there was little escort, someone nearby said to him, "Look, this is something special, you have to feel something. The cathedral, the Pope, this meeting," and something seemed to click. We immediately noticed a change in rhetoric, not just from Trump, but from Vance and some of the advisors. By the way, did you notice the last time you saw Vance? It's been a while since we've seen him. I had this thought this morning. It's been a while since we've seen Vance. Obviously, Musk's long gone too. He's been fired. But we haven't seen Vance in a long time. The last time we saw Vance, I think, was in the Vatican after the death of Pope Francis. Then he was seen in India, and after India he went to Munich. And it was in Munich that he already changed his rhetoric at the same conference that he went to in February, just 2 months ago.
Последний раз мы видели, кстати, там же в Ватикане, после чего Папа Франциск умер, а потом мы его видели в Индии, когда там, и из Индии он вернулся, он ездил еще в Мюнхен, и, кстати, в Мюнхене он уже изменил риторику. Он совсем не с теми речами приехал в Мюнхен повторно на ту же самую конференцию, ну там рабочая встреча была, вот, с которой он выступал в феврале месяце, буквально два месяца тому назад.
Here, Trump has a change of heart. I think someone in his inner circle whispered to him that Vance was being too active. The vice president is not supposed to interfere so much. The president should play the main role. And it turns out that it's not you who plays the main role, but Vance, who says some things for you. Trump, you understand, is an ambitious man. He always likes to be in the center of attention, to play the first violin, and he doesn't need the second violin. And so someone told him that Vance was playing his own part and even wanted to stay in his place. He wasn't just offended. When asked if he wanted a successor, he said, "Why do I need a successor? I have Vance, young, smart, good-looking. I have Mark Rubio, also young, smart, doing great. I have a dozen more people who can replace me, but I will finish my term. Everything is according to plan." This is in response to the fact that Putin, giving up his position, did not name a single successor. "I am preparing everyone," he said, but did not name any specific names. Something has actually changed. I think Putin simply got fed up with Trump, and there came a moment when Trump realized that he had to pound his fist on the table, because otherwise he couldn't cope with Putin.
Трамп понимает, что надо хлопнуть кулаком, потому что, в общем, с Путиным иначе не сладить.
By the way, Sergei, last week Trump mentioned 2 countries and 2 leaders, Erdogan of Turkey and China. He said Turkey could help with the talks and China could also be a mediator. Erdogan supported the idea of a 30-day ceasefire and then talks. As for China, Foreign Ministry spokesman Liang Jin was asked if they support the idea. He responded in characteristic Chinese style, "We support any steps that contribute to stopping the bloodshed." At a briefing today, May 13th, Vladimir Zelenskyy said that China had asked for no strikes against Moscow between May 8th and May 10th, and that China supported a 30-day ceasefire. Is it safe to assume that Trump has enlisted those with influence over Putin, those he is targeting and who he will not be able to say no to?
І Китай підтримував 30 днів припинення вогню. Чи можна вважати, що Трамп підключив тих, хто впливає на Путіна, тих, з ким він рахується, на кого він рівняється, яким він не зможе відмовити?
We can't say that Trump did it directly, but changes did happen. There were no big problems with Erdogan, by the way, because he has always supported Ukraine. Let me remind you that Erdogan does not recognize the annexation of Crimea and other Ukrainian territories. He provides Ukraine with Bayraktars and is also building a factory to produce them. Supposedly, the factory should already be operating or possibly already started. In this sense, there are no problems with Erdogan. He is both yours and ours, but he treats Ukraine quite positively. He first accepted the Azovs and then let them go, although he promised Putin that they would stay with him until the end of the war. When Zelenskyy arrived, Erdogan said, "Take them away, no problem." That's when Putin got really puffed up. Remember how they tried to catch Erdogan? They told him, "Why are you so puffed up? Come to me and we'll talk." And Putin replied, "I'm not coming to your NATO country." Haha, no, you come to me then. And we met in Sochi, there. Now Xi Jinping is an interesting story, isn't it? Indeed, China's deputy foreign minister made a statement that is in fact more important than any previous Chinese statements we've heard about. In the past, China has always said, "We are the Middle Kingdom, and we favor respect for international law." At the same time, they also did not recognize the annexation of Crimea, because if they recognize Crimea, then what about Taiwan? If they recognize the independence of the DNR and LNR, then Taiwan will say, "You recognize them, so I can be recognized too." This is what we say to Putin as well. Putin, for example, calls Zelenskyy illegitimate when talking about the coup d'etat in Kiev. Now Ukrainians can always say, wait a minute, what about Captain Traoré of Burkina Faso, who came to power in a second coup d'etat? He ousted a lieutenant colonel who had staged his own coup just 9 months before.
Второго по счету, то есть он скинул с власти из президентского дворца подполковника, который до этого за 9 месяцев до него совершил другой государственный переворот.
And Putin has met with this African several times. And if he's talking to a man from Burkina Faso who has carried out 2 coups d'etat, why the hell is he saying something about Ukraine, where there have been 2 legitimate elections, in 2014 and in 2019? But I digress a little bit, although it's useful to remind both our viewers and Russians who sometimes forget these things. China said for the first time that this is not its own proposal, but that they support the European and American initiative for a 30-day truce without conditions. China supports that. And right after that, notice that, boom, Trump announced, "That's it, we have a deal on duties. No more tariffs of 145 and then 25%. Now 30 and 10. We love each other now." The India-Pakistan war immediately stopped. It's all over. Everybody is in chocolate. Everything is fine. Wonderful. So I don't think it was possible for China to show that it was completely on Putin's side. Putin is a vassal to China. Xi Jinping came to his own parade, hosted a parade of Chinese troops that marched through Red Square.
Ему тоже нельзя было показывать, что он полностью на стороне Путина. Путин для него вассал. Да, Си Цзиньпин приезжал на собственный парад. Он приезжал принимать парад своих китайских войск, которые маршировали по Красной площади.
And also basically all of Asia, if you exclude the Belarusians and Russians. There were almost exclusively troops from Asian countries and from Central Asia. But Putin made his mark in Moscow. Trump didn't like it, and China is very cautious. Why go to the trouble? So they made Putin feel good, but at the same time showed everything as it should be shown. And now we need to make Americans feel good. And now there is such a message. By the way, the Europeans reacted quickly. When Trump started a war with China, Europe immediately appeared and said, "We are in business here at all. We have no tariffs. We love you. We will not even remember about Tibet, about the Dalai Lama, about the Uyghurs. We will forget everything. We will be friends, do business, and so on. In general, the knot is tied tight, and there are only 48 hours left. Well, who needs popcorn? Who needs valerian? Who needs vodka to somehow endure these 2 days? Because it's hard. I really want to know what will happen next. For the first time, I would like a time machine so that I could be there on the 15th and know in advance what will happen there.
Кому валерьянку, кому водочку, чтобы дотерпеть за 2 суток, потому что тяжело, конечно. Очень хочется узнать, что там будет, да. Вот это первый раз, когда очень хочется машину времени, и прям вот надо, это, если прям вот 15-го оказаться, и прям уже знать заранее, что там будет.
Really, Sergei, I would like to ask you for a moment about Europe, specifically about the statements of Macron, who says that we should distance ourselves from the United States and even criticize Trump. I guess Trump said, whoever believes that Putin wants peace is either an idiot or a pardoner. This was an indirect response to the likes of Macron and Trump. Today, Trump also said that it is more difficult to negotiate with the EUC from an economic point of view than with China. Where do you think the European Union and Europe stand now? And another thing, regarding the statements of Germany on January 12th, that if the strikes are not stopped by the end of the day, there will be sanctions, and now they say after the meeting on the 15th. Such interruptions look unserious and not very salty. Don't you think this criticism should be left to Putin? We will not disperse this case ourselves, because 4 European leaders, first persons, have recently visited you. What were the pictures with Zelenskyy? There were 5 of them, a capable 5 like the Musketeers, but instead of 4, there were 5. Macron, by the way, was the mastermind behind the whole thing. The fact that they came to Kiev on the 10th was Macron's initiative. And they not only came, but also called Trump and talked to him. In fact, Macron and Starmer support this communication with Trump when Zelenskyy himself cannot do it. Let me remind you that they organized a reception for Zelenskyy after his difficult visit on February 28th. He went straight to London, where Starmer met him, warmly received him, took him to the king, gave him a reception at the English monarch's house, and Zelenskyy was in the same clothes without a suit. The king did not even reproach him for this. So we should not neglect it. Europe is a big partner after all. Many European countries have confirmed and even doubled their assistance to Ukraine.
Вот, так что на самом деле не будем плеваться на это дело. Европа это все-таки довольно большой партнер. Очень много европейских стран подтвердило свою помощь Украине, удвоило свою помощь.
Norway has allocated an additional 5 billion. Germany has doubled its initial plans for this year. France has added 2 billion. Holland and Denmark have also increased their aid, and so on. Now, Lithuania has agreed with Taiwan on new mining aid to Ukraine in demining. By the way, it is Taiwan that may encourage China to become a little more active, because Lithuania is purposefully fighting with China for the recognition and protection of Taiwan. That is why it allows itself such steps.
Ведет войну с Китаем за признание, то есть за защиту Тайваня.
They've been having a real tough diplomatic war for 2 or 3 years now. If Taiwan does something, it's just inconvenient for China not to respond more strongly. After all, a big country can't afford to look weak. So Europe is helping. Of course, there are various factors superimposed here. No one thought it was impossible to give an ultimatum after the 15th. But by the way, the ultimatum was effective, because no one said that sanctions would be imposed exactly at midnight on the 13th. They said, if Russia does not introduce a ceasefire, we will start preparing sanctions, and now they are already preparing the 17th package. Hungary has not protested once so far because it was made clear, listen, Orban. By the way, Orban didn't go to see Putin. He could have, but he didn't. So everything is fine in Europe, despite its difficulties. It's not the US or China. In China, it's Xi Jinping who decides everything. In America, it's the president, now Trump. But Europe is 27 countries, plus England and a few others.
Да, у них свои заморочки. Это ведь не США и не Китай. В Китае что Си Цзиньпин решил, то и сделали.
Europe is at least 27 countries, plus England and a few other countries. Organizing all of this is very difficult. What you're getting from Europe now would be extremely difficult without it, especially since there's not much help from America right now. European aid and your own production is what you can rely on now. In general, everything is fine, of course. You always want more, 10 times more, 2 or 3 times more. But for now, we have to wait for another 48 hours and see what happens next. Sergei, we're waiting 48 hours and hope to meet soon to discuss everything in detail. Thank you for taking the time to analyze and comment on these historic events. We sincerely appreciate it.